Hey there, welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, where we're expanding the natural family planning conversation. I'm your host, Ellen Holloway. Welcome back to the podcast. We are here again with Christy Murray. Christy came on the podcast a little while ago and shared her infertility journey with us, as well as just kind of we talked a lot about mindset and prayer and things like that in that episode, as well as health. A link to that episode is in the show notes. So if you want to check out that episode, learn a little bit more about Christy before diving into this episode, please feel free to do so. Christy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here again.
Awesome. Can you start by just telling us, for those who haven't listened to that episode, a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So, like I said, I'm Christy Murray, and I am a mom of 2 kids. And I'm a nurse practitioner and also have special training in functional medicine and nutrition endocrinology. And also women's health nurse practitioner. And I chose to do all those extra training because of my experience with infertility. So now it's really just kind of snowballing to, okay, it's my gift to give back because I was blessed to survive infertility. And now I want to make women healthy, regardless whether they're trying to get pregnant or just wanting to get their cycles regular or in check or just in preparation for pregnancy.
Fantastic. That's incredible. We need more of you, Christy.
Thank you.
We need one of you in every city in the world.
Well, I can be reached online, so
fantastic. Perfect. And if you're listening to this and you want to reach out to Christy, or if she says something that really strikes your fancy, links to reach out to her and her website are going to be in the show notes. So definitely look there for that info. And again, if you want to hear more about Christy's infertility journey and kind of what led her here to, what she's doing today, be sure to check out that episode. So today we're talking about cycle irregularity, and just kind of what to do about that, why sometimes we don't do anything about it. So Christy, could we start by kind of defining what is considered an irregularity in your cycle?
So an irregularity can I start with what's regular, how a cycle should be?
That would be a perfect, yes. Let's start with what's regular, and then anything off of that would be.
So if you are not keeping track of your cycle, there's a lot of women that just go month by month, or like week by week. I have some people saying that it always comes in the first week of the month, or it always comes in the new moon. But and then now it's flipped. It comes during the full moon. So like something is wrong. So then it's really important that I'm like, okay, well, sometimes your cycle kind of varies, a week or so, because a normal cycle, anywhere from 24 to about 35 days is normal. It's not, if you're cycling every 35 days, it's still normal. If you're cycling every 24, 25 days, it's still normal. It's just depending on your phases. Some phases may be short or long, but you are still going through that process of ovulation and then shedding and then build up.
Right. And it's not something, something I say a lot is there's no reason that a woman should strive to have a 28-day cycle. There's absolutely no reason to, yes, you should strive to have a cycle within that normal range, but as Christy just said, that range is like 10 days. There's a big range in normal. And that's okay to be, anywhere in that range.
It is. So like some months you may be 28 and then like the next month you may be 35. You're still within that range. So what's not normal is if you're cycling every 3 months is when or you're having periods every 2 weeks.
Yeah, that would definitely be not normal.
Yeah. And then everything that goes along with it as well. If you're having extreme pain during your cycle, something's off. You should not be in that much pain. A little bit of cramping, yes. A little bit of moodiness, yes, but not like any extreme. There, that's I think that's a good way to put it. Anything extreme that's happening within your cycle, then that should be a red flag that okay, I should start pursuing this and start doing some research and getting some answers.
Yeah. Christy, I want to stop you there on pain because I feel like I have heard everything under the moon about pain is, anywhere from pain's normal, right? We get that a lot in our culture, to a normal, healthy cycle shouldn't have any pain, to as long as the pain can be mitigated with a normal level of ibuprofen, which might be 400 to 600 milligrams, then that's acceptable pain. What would you define as like acceptable pain cramping and extreme pain cramping?
Acceptable is if you're kind of just, and a lot of women say when they have their cycle, like, I don't feel good. I feel blah, kind of my back hurts a little bit. And then, okay, but it's fine that I just take like one ibuprofen. Mm-hmm. That's okay. If it's affecting your quality of life, if you're like, I'm missing work, I don't feel like getting out of bed, and I'm doubled over, that's extreme pain, and that's not something should be done.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're, if you're sitting there and you're like, well, I'm kind of in between there, then dig into that a little bit. Like,
yes.
Get curious about the level of pain that you have and try to be more aware of it. When the next time your cycle comes around, be aware of what that pain is. And, are you, it's funny. I realize like looking back on my, like high school and, college years, I realized I had an unacceptable level of pain and I just accepted it as normal. And so, you may not even realize that you have an extreme level of pain because you're used to it, because it's what you've always experienced. Okay, awesome. Thank you for defining that a little bit. Continue. I think you were going to say a couple more things that are, irregular in cycles.
So mood, if you are just, it's kind of feeling a little bit kind of icky during your cycle, that's okay. But if you're just like always lashing out and can't control yourself during your cycle, maybe let's start looking at what's going on, why that's happening. Maybe you're more dominant in an estrogen, or your diet, like makes you more dominant in like a certain type of hormone. Not necessarily that you have to take medication right away, but of course, I always advocate for starting with plants. I want to say plants before pills.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Start with your diet first.
Yeah. And then that comes with a self-care too. If you actually, like if your cycle is coming, which comes back to keeping track. There's so many apps nowadays. It's great. It's just a matter of remembering, okay, my cycle today, boom. Instead of like, oh, why am I feeling off? Oh, maybe it shouldn't be like, maybe my period is coming. It should be a matter of looking at your calendar or looking at your app saying, okay, it's coming in a few days.
Right. Well, and I think, what I was saying earlier about like looking back, I had an unacceptable amount of pain with my cycle. And I think part of that could have been mitigated had I been tracking my cycle and realized, like what it was or what was causing that pain, and understanding, okay, so, I was able to confirm ovulation like 12 days ago, probably going to get my cycle any day, whatever that number is for you, 12, 14, somewhere in there for 18. Your luteal phase, 18, right. That's dependent on, or that's going to be pretty regular per cycle for you, whatever your number is for the luteal phase. Yeah. And then, can we talk a little bit about bleeding too? What would be considered irregular bleeding?
Irregular bleeding is if you are soaking more than 2 pads in an hour. That's
Okay.
really extreme. And I would say what's regular is, it should taper, like it should start light and then kind of peak to heavy, and then it would start to taper down to light period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should be seeing that bell curve in your in the amount.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely. So why do you think it is, Christy, that most women, I wouldn't even say some, I would say most women,
yes,
just accept these cycle irregularities, especially when they're incredibly painful?
Because society, they were told, like, either their aunts or moms or grandparents, oh, that's how it normally is, or either they have high tolerance for pain, and they're just like, oh, I'll just plug through.
Yeah.
And they just accept it.
I just wonder where that came from of, our society tells us, oh yeah, this pain is normal. And, or, whatever, your crazy mood swings are normal. And like, I just really wonder where that came from, is why did we switch from saying this is something that is common, but not normal, to something that is common and normal? Like, why do you think we did that? I don't know. This might be an existential question here.
I'm thinking maybe like pharmacy, because it's like, oh, if you're having pain during your cycle, take this.
That's true. We very much become a culture of, if you have a problem, take a pill to fix it. And in functional medicine, that is not the automatic answer. It's more about, okay, you have a problem. Let's find out what that problem is and see if we can fix it. Yeah. And, it very well might be able to be fixed by a change in diet, a change in sleep, a change in exercise, whatever.
Yeah. Or like maybe your genetics, maybe you're metabolizing something faster than you should, or you're not metabolizing anything that's throwing off your cascade. But it's just simple as like being your own detective and getting the help to find out, like, okay, what's going on here. It's not like a Band-Aid, like here's some medicine, here's some pain meds, and here's a hot compress, and just lay down and wait it out. You should not be putting your life on hold. What you should be doing is being proactive to where what's going on, and how can I do something, like, so I can enjoy my life.
Yes, definitely. Oh, I love that. So why is it important? I mean, we all know it's important. We're listening to this episode, right? We're like, okay, cyclical irregularities are not good. I should fix them. Why is it important to not just accept these kind of irregularities if we experience them?
So many things. So I'm going to start with one is if you are trying to get pregnant.
Yes.
Yes, you should know, like, what's going on. Is it something structural, something hormonal? And the best way to really keep track of that is just start with tracking your cycle. So when you do seek help, you have this information going to your provider that it's been like this for 6 months or a year. And here I can pull up like every cycle that I have, and this is what's happening. That's great. That's great partnering with, and really taking charge of your health. So the second one is anything like structural. Like I said, if you're in pain, and I know a lot of women, Google is like really, really good at why am I in pain? So then like you get all these things, like maybe it's endometriosis, maybe it's this. So endometriosis is, there are adhesions that grow inside your pelvic area, mainly your uterus. But it's only, the true diagnosis of it is it's if they actually go in surgically and visualize those growths, those lesions.
Right. You can't know you have endometriosis just from your symptoms, because it could mean something completely different.
Yes. And then the adhesions are not correlated with how much pain you're having. So you could have a lot of it and you could have like really, small amount of pain, or you can have a lot of pain and a really small growth. But it's really important that you're keeping track of like, okay, I get my pain around my cycle or, all month. So really just like gathering all this information instead of jumping to conclusion. Oh, I have this. So then when you do seek help, you kind of, it's kind of like going in somewhere with a sack, right?
Yeah. Well, I love what you're saying here, Christy, is that there's nothing wrong with Googling these things.
Mm-hmm.
But the danger in Googling lies in assuming. And so, if you're facing one of these kinds of cycle irregularities, do your research, put together a Google Doc with a bunch of links to things, but don't assume, okay, because I'm experiencing this, I must have, for the example we're using, I must have endometriosis. But you can.
So I need this supplement.
Right. Exactly. Right. We take it one step further. It's like, oh, I must have this, therefore I must take this medicine. That may not be the case. And so, there's nothing wrong with the research. There's nothing bad about the research. The negativity comes in if you start assuming certain things. So, filling your sack up with info is very, very good. And then you can go into your practitioner and you can say, hey, I'm seeing this happening in my cycle. Maybe this is something I've always experienced. Maybe this is something that's new that I'm experiencing that hasn't been my normal. I've done this research. It seems like I have the symptoms for this, or maybe this, or maybe this, there's my info, practitioner. Like,
yes, let's sort this out.
Yeah,
exactly. So so childbearing, and then, structural issues. And another thing is cancer. Especially if you have that family history of cancer, especially uterine cancer, uterine, any female type of cancer. So, and I'm just going to share this because I have like from experience, I know someone who's just accepted that, hey, it's just normal for me to have a cycle every other month or every 3 months, and that's my norm. So like she said, all her life, it's just always been that way. So she's regularly irregular.
Yeah.
And to some extent, it's fine. Nothing's wrong. But unfortunately, and she may be one of the, like the oddball for that, but it's still, it gives life to where you should just not accept, always get checked and don't accept that it's normal.
Right. And always be curious, about
exactly. Always
what's going on. And, why is it that my cycle's only coming once every other month, or why is it that sometimes I have regular cycles and then sometimes I don't see a period for 3 months, there's something there that's not, don't just accept that. That's the flag we're waving on this podcast episode is don't just accept that these things aren't, quote, normal. And like we said, there is a range of normal. So you may very well fit into that range of normal, and that, and that's nothing to be concerned about. But if you're seeing some of these outlying things happening, if you are not post-hormone, perimenopausal, or postpartum, and you are seeing short and long cycles, that's not normal.
Yes, exactly.
So get curious, chart your cycle, all the things that I feel like I tout on this podcast all the time.
Yes.
What else? Why else would it be important to not just accept these cycle irregularities?
So another thing is it's PCOS. PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And there's 3 criteria that, that we look at to diagnose it. You only have to meet 2 of them. One of them is like having like multiple cysts in your ovaries. hence the name. And another one is like hirsutism, is what we call it. If you have like excess facial hair, excess hair like anywhere, like it's not a matter of like, oh, I wax or shave my legs every month, and that's normal for my family. It's anything out of the ordinary. And then like acne, so any sign of like high testosterone. And another thing is what we call anovulation. If like, again, back to keeping track of your cycle, if you're only having cycles like every 3 months or not having a cycle at all, so obviously you're not ovulating, then we start looking at PCOS. And PCOS is not just about ovulation or trying to get pregnant. It carries all this metabolic kind of baggage with it.
Right.
Yeah. So then it affects your blood pressure, your cholesterol, and cardiac issues as well.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, these things that we're talking about are extremes for sure. But I think what we're really trying to get across is there are certain things that aren't extremes in cycle irregularities that could just be easily mitigated by some changes in diet, some changes in just lifestyle. But your cycle irregularities also could be pointing to a larger issue that could affect your fertility. It could affect, it could affect your life, your lifestyle. And so it's really important to be aware of these things. Yeah. We call it fertility awareness for a reason.
Yeah. It's like the fifth vital sign, because it's your body telling you. It's extra for us women. We have a fifth one. It's our body telling us that, okay, something's off. And
yes, exactly. Well, Christy, is there anything else that you wanted to mention about this topic?
So I do, is I can't really stress how important it is for women to keep track of your cycle. And
yes,
it doesn't matter like, oh, it always comes like on the 5th or the 20th. Oh, but then it's off. And then, and how many, part of the things that I ask people is, okay, it's off. I need more information than you telling me it's off. Why is it off? Is it heavier? Is it lighter? Is it off for 5 days? And is it off for a few months? Or when did this happen? And another thing is what happened during that time that it became off.
Right. Oh, that's so important. I am such a big advocate with my clients. I'm an instructor in symptothermal method. Such a big advocate with my clients of write everything down in the notes section. Like write down, even if you just had like a bad day, write it down. And that way we can see, if you, maybe you didn't realize it was that bad of a day, but it really was. And your body took a toll from, being whatever, you had that coworker who yelled at you or whatever. And then we see that ovulation is delayed by a little while, and we can see, okay, you know what? You were really stressed because of that. That's kind of a silly example, but it's so important to, write down, what's going on, in your life as a whole, as well as what you're seeing in your cycle, because that's so important. We can't, the diagnostic tool of our cycle is only as good as the data we have about it.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I can put that on a billboard.
Yeah.
And so, so it's really, really important to track it as detailed as you can.
Yeah. Another example that I like to give people is, so I was in the Army, so boot camp, it's a really stressful time. And a lot of women actually, they skip cycles when they were in that stressful time, because you're in shock, you're getting yelled at, you're in like this training. So sometimes cycle stops, and like even athletes, when they do like really extreme training and their body fat dips down like really, really unhealthy low. Because without fat, there's no transportation for your hormones to circulate.
Yeah.
And then if you do notice, for women who start living together in a they start syncing cycles together so they'd all have their cycle at the same time.
Oh my gosh. I think that's a fascinating aspect of, of our bodies. I would love to dive into that more and just, oh my gosh, talk more about that. But well, Christy, this has been such a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, talking about cycle irregularities. This is a really important topic. Again, if you're listening and something that Christy said kind of sparked you, there's going to be some links from Christy in the show notes. So be sure to check those out. And get curious about your cycle, get curious about what's going on there.
Yeah. And if you're curious and you have all this data that you can't wait to have help to sort it out. So if you go to a website called healthylifequiz.com and take the time to get all the, answer those questions and see where you are, you can get a hold of me and I can help you sort these things out. So hopefully we go the preventative route instead of let's fix something.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Christy. This has been fabulous.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you are not already following us on Instagram, be sure to check us out at Charting Toward Intimacy. And I love hearing from you guys. So if you have comments, questions, episode topic ideas, please reach out. My contact info is in the show notes. Until next time.